Computer, right. Okay, hello, welcome to episode 415 of the Self-Help Podcast with me, Edward Lamb, my good pal Sean Orford. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing amazingly well, as ever, and the sun is shining, so it's a double whammy, yeah.
I'm hoping, well, I'm not hoping, but people might be able to hear in the background the birds tweeting in a bit. I've got the French doors open next to me, so
yeah.
a robin's just landed on the floor next to my guinea pigs there. Yeah, everywhere looks all of a sudden.
And are they having a shout, the robin and the guinea pig?
Well, yeah, I think that there's a cat that's got wind. That the guinea pigs live outside in our garden now, so I think it's been eyeing them up and trying to look for weak spots in the hutch. So cat wars in our garden impending. So yeah, watch out. Watch for the local news as you see man and cat fight viciously on the floor of around in Bevington.
Catman, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I would succeed in that battle. And we're talking about success. Well, but we're focusing on failure, the importance of failure this week. We'll come on to in a minute. livingthepresent.co.uk. All the show notes and links, and do sign up for weekly alerts and some free meditation files. Put your email address in the box on the website. But yeah, how you been, Sean? You had a good week, enjoying this little bit of time?
Yeah, it's very good. And I have to give a shout out to Edward, having met up with you the other day and seeing your electric bike, which is a beast. So
it's quite a sight to behold, isn't it? I went to Neston on it to meet someone on Friday morning just for a cuppa, and it was right in the heart of the village or the town, and by the traffic lights. So people, like, it's part of the reason I got a bright orange one, but everyone just keeps stopping me and asking me, like, what the heck is that? So
they don't say, why did you choose that color?
I'm kind of I'm thinking I should have got a black one now, but it's turning heads, that's for sure. But that was part of the reason, that's part of the reason I got it, just to get questions going and get people thinking.
Yeah, it makes a visual noise, doesn't it? So that you have to look at it because of the color of it.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't happen if it was a black one.
No, but it was. Well, it might do a little bit, not as much, but it was good to see you there. And I mean, people are congregating in back gardens, and in fact, I think we might even be allowed in each other's homes now. I should know what the rules are, but
I think it's rule of 6 then. I think.
Okay.
I think we're still on. I get confused because it changes. But the problem that we're all holding our breath for is this Indian variant, isn't it? And whether we can get away with it or not. That's the biggie, I think.
It's going to be fun and games, man. Yeah, I've had my first jab last weekend. So that was pretty straightforward for thankfully no side effects. But I mean,
are you going to change your Facebook status with "I've been vaccinated"?
Well, I saw you just done that actually, so I probably won't. Not because any real significance, just that I don't really change my profile picture that often. But yeah, you noted when you updated your picture that people can or can't take it. It's up to them, and But you kind of, you've had the virus, haven't you? And it hit you for 6.
I've had the virus, and I've still got long COVID symptoms. So to me, that's justification enough to say to anybody, you probably need to get vaccinated. But it's all the issues for me about the ongoing stuff. And to me, I know lots of people that I know are outraged by the fact that I had the vaccine. Because I mean, come on, you're a yoga teacher and you teach meditation and stuff like that. Your body's so pure. Why would you need? Well, I was actually unpure enough to get the COVID in the first place. And I really hope the people that are the anti-vaxxers that I know don't get it. I really hope. Mind you, it'll make them even more, I told you so, if they don't get it, which is lovely, I guess. But to me, there's a kind of this may sound weird, but it's like being polite to other people as well. I don't believe that the vaccine is out to get me. I don't believe that the universe is out to get me. I do know that COVID got me. Yeah. So we have to make our own decisions, don't we, as to what we do.
Yeah, we do. I mean, Yeah, I mean, the uptake is very high. It's just that, there are a few people for various reasons. I've got a friend who doesn't want to take it, not for any kind of reasons of conspiracy or that. I think she just feels like she's worried that her body might have an adverse reaction to it because she's had vaccinations in the past for other things that didn't agree with her. And so she's taking the chance of not having it and getting the virus at some point and hoping that she'll be able to fight it off. So people have all sorts of reasons to do and don't do things, and we just need a bit of kindness, don't we? And not
yeah allow people to do what they need to do. But I can understand why countries will be saying, and I don't want you to come into my country unless you've been vaccinated. I get that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I haven't really got a strong stance on the whole vaccine passport thing, and the potential for it to be used for other means down the line. I can see why, yeah, certainly in terms of aviation and countries wanting people that aren't coming in with the virus. Although you can still carry it even if you've had the vaccination, can't you? So it's just going to be a bit of a wild year or two, but I guess from our point, on our message, which we talk about, or you do, Sean, is that we are just kind of sitting on the riverbank watching the river go by, rather than, you don't have to jump into the river all the time, do you?
No. And certainly we can't affect a lot of this stuff. We can take our own precautions. If you feel that eating processed rhino dung or something is going to protect you, then have a go, and let's hope it does. I know from all my Ayurvedic training that the taking of substances that do affect your system is a positive thing. Only we can decide that, can't we?
Yeah.
What we do.
Yeah. Well, I had a chocolate bar before we came on air, and that's going to have some kind of impact on me. But hopefully,
outrageous.
Right. Well, we're talking about or the importance of failure today, which we have touched on, well, a lot of times, but it's been a while since we focused on that. So what prompted this one, Sean? Was it because it kind of runs on?
Well, it went on from the other stuff that we were talking about imposter syndrome, and just those conversations that carried on from that podcast that people were saying to me, I listened to the podcast and the actual fear of failure. And I'm trying to explain to people that maybe failure isn't a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe failure is something that we need to create our success. And I mentioned in the podcast about Edison and the light bulb. And I can't remember, was it, I put 200 in the podcast. Was it 200 or 2,000 elements that he tried? I know he tried loads of them.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was thousands. Yeah, I'm sure.
Was it 2,000? Yeah. So he ends up finding tungsten, which is the one that with the first light bulbs. And I've often thought when I read that first of all about how many of us, and me certainly, would I have had the tenacity to try again and again and again and again until I found the right one, where I just thought, it's a stupid idea, this.
Yeah, let's just use a candle.
Yeah. So, and if he'd seen it as failures, they weren't failures. He just went, okay, that one doesn't work. Okay, let's try that. That doesn't work. Okay, that one doesn't work, until he finds the one that does. And that's the point, really, isn't it? It's so easy to give up. I'm useless. I can't. And failure's in the eye of the beholder. Whereas failure can actually be a tool that enables us to do what we need to do. It can be a really good positive thing.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Edison, because thinking back to that time, and I don't know the full history of where humanity was at that point, but we at our caravan, we don't have electricity, so we rely on candles, and we have got a few LED battery lights. Like there's a little one in the bathroom it's actually senses when you walk in and illuminates the bathroom at night with just enough so you can go to the loo. But we also have like an oil lamp, which is so these two little kind of cotton strings dangle into the oil or the paraffin, and then that soaks up, and then you kind of wind them up and you light them, and then it's got a beautiful white glass thing that you put over.
Right, well,
and it lights up the whole room. It's amazing.
Well,
And yeah, I mean, a guy like Edison obviously had the vision. The people at that time would have been probably saying to him, well, what's the big deal? You know, why are you bothered? We've got these these kind of oil lamps. We've got candles. We've got, why are you trying so hard? But the guys like that had the vision for electrification of all sorts of things, and light being one of them.
I guess people were using gas lights as well at that time. I can remember staying in cottages when I was a kid, in Reigate particularly, where they had gas lamps. They had a thing called a gas mantle, which is like a little fabric thing that glowed,
right,
sort of white, bright with the gas on it.
Clever, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm going to link to a couple of blog posts that describe some of the more famous failures. You know, we have talked about them in the past. People like Beyonce's mentioned on there, Bill Gates, and I mean Steve Jobs is quite a good one because he came and created Apple and then went away after failing and then came back again to kind of save the day once again. So those techno genius weirdos are you know, quite well known. But I mean, we are all failures, aren't we, in one way or another? And yeah, how often do you think you fail as a psychotherapist, Sean?
All the time. I mean, and that's the point, because when you get something wrong, the issue is does it become a learning point so that I can then get it right? Or does it become a failure? Because I was saying to you earlier on, it's like I make bread. Sometimes I make bread, it doesn't work. So the question is, what went wrong there? It's not a failure. I'm learning from what I do. If I'm cooking, and the flavor's not quite right, I'm learning. It's not a failure. Yeah. And that's true about every bit of life. You know, whether it's relationships or businesses or whatever, we get things wrong. Are we learning?
Food's a good one, isn't it? I mean, yeah, we got a pizza oven last year. It's a little portable one for the garden, and it's a wood-fired pizza oven. So there's two things that are kind of I've really enjoyed learning from it. One is kind of the art of making a good little fire, kind of building it up gently, and then, you know, being confident that when you put a bigger log on, that will catch. And then obviously you need to keep your eye on it and keep it fueled. So that's really interesting, and I've got the hang of it. It took me a while. I had to fail quite a few times, and even when I had people come around to try the homemade pizza, the fire went out, and I had to kind of scrape it all back in together and get it going again, and so it's quite stressful. So you can see why people give up on various tasks when they're under that kind of pressure. You know, just trying to cook pizza for friends and family. And then there's obviously the dough side of things. So making a good pizza dough takes time, doesn't it? And not just in terms of you need at least 24 hours for it to prove and puff up, but you know, you need to do it 5, 6, 7 times to kind of know it, and just to have that kind of instinct and reflex.
Yeah, but it's like, if you look at life all the way along the line, a child learns to walk by falling over. Walking is, if you watch a child learning, they're falling forward and putting their feet out to stop themselves falling over. That's how they learn to walk. Yeah. But can you remember learning to tie your shoelaces? I can't now. But I mean, how many times will we have got it wrong before we got it right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it's only if you've got a parent who's going, you bloody idiot, that you get that concept of failure, rather than, no, that's okay, try again. So do it this way. No. So I think that is so important as to whether we see ourselves as failures. Yeah. So I mentioned in the podcast, I did actually have somebody who was depressed with failure because everyone in their street had 2 cars and they only had one. They could only afford 1 car. And it really, really made them so unhappy, you know. And they wanted another car. It could have been just a blow-up car on the drive, so it looked like they had 2 cars. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, the same way as we learn to walk. I think you use the analogy, you're driving, or I would use obviously the recycling. You know, you don't just get in your car or on your bike and drive to your destination. You kind of, it's a series of tiny little maneuvers, isn't it? And adjusting the steering as you go along.
Yeah.
Same in a ship, I guess. When you're sailing the 7 seas, you don't just kind of aim for where you want and go. You just you're constantly going against the wind and making these small little alterations.
That's what they say about when you're flying a plane, is you're not flying to somewhere, you're forever correcting it because it's being blown off course. That's what you're doing. You're correcting it all the time. Yeah. Yeah. And it's that idea, I guess, a lot of failure that we perceive is about how other people see us. You know, is someone going to see me as a failure? No. It's like if you trip over in the street and you fall over, a lot of people will get up and look around and see who saw them. Yeah, because that's the bad bit, is being seen falling over, not the falling over. Yeah, yes. That kind of thing. This is really funny. I've got this camper van being done, so it'll be a new vehicle, which is nice. And I have my personal number plate that was bought for me for a birthday present back a long years ago. So, which is the X19 Doc. But yeah. So the issue is, do you? And I think this is really, really funny. It's the way other people see it. Do you get the new number plate so people know you've got a new vehicle, or do you put your own private number plate on, then people don't know? And the amount of people that think, well, no, you should drive it for a while with the new number, so people know, you know, that you're a success and you've got this vehicle. Yeah. And it's weird, all those concepts of success and failure, of having and have not. You know, I mean, to me, if you need £1 and you got £1.50, you're rich. Yeah, it's a relative thing, isn't it? And all these things that we look at are relative. You know, and if someone's dream of life is to have £1 million and I've got £500, they look at me and go, God, what a failure. Yeah, but then if they lose their million, are they a failure? Yeah, it's a really odd thing to be, you know.
It is, yeah, and I guess I mean, life as consumers, like the Western world has kind of constructed this series of things that you need to do to be a success, in terms of going to school, going to uni, getting a job, earning a certain amount, getting a house, getting married, having kids, retiring, and then, you know, going on a cruise or two before the end of days for you. So yeah, just like not following that pattern can really freak some people out, can't it? But
yeah. What about the issue of, if you go to university, what grades did you get at your degree? Because did you get a first? Did you get a 2-1, a 2-2, or a third? You know, and the weird thing is that all the degree stuff that I've done, no one's ever asked me what I got. They just accept the fact that I got the degrees.
Yeah, you know? Went through the process. Yes.
Yeah.
Stuck it out. Yeah.
And yet there were people there that were so desperate to get a first, and, you know, to be there and to be the one, you know. And I wonder if anybody ever asked them, do they say, hi, my name's Sean, I got a first in psychology? Does that, you know, people need to say that to make it feel right?
We do have a bit of it's sports day coming up for my kids. Sadly, it's another one where we won't be able to go and watch, because I mean, it's quite good fun watching the races for the little kiddies. But yeah, it's off for another year. But I mean, to be fair, I don't think the schools place too much emphasis on winning the races. But there is, you know, within society, there's kind of, obviously, we champion the winners in life, whether it's in sports or other competitions, isn't it? Do you think that's healthy overall? Do you think is it pushing forward humanity little by little, or do you think we should have less focus on winning?
Well, to me, I don't like the idea of competition, which people always think is odd. But it's like, to me, when you run the race, 9 people run the race, 1 person wins and 9 people fail, unless they look at it as, no, I was taking part, or I did faster than last time, or however they do it. But they can see themselves as failures because they didn't get on the top of the trophy stand, you know. And to me, that's bonkers. Why do we keep doing that? Why can't we, you know, someone falls over on the track, do we stop and help them up? Or do we keep running, go, ha, 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 ha? You know?
It can be. I mean, one of the best stories from athletics history is it Derek Redmond, the British athlete, and he got to the Olympics. I think it was the Olympics it was a big competition anyway, and he kind of, in one of his races, I think the final, he couldn't complete the race because he injured himself, and his dad kind of came on track and helped him across the line, and that was the talking point of the event. I'll put a link in the. It's like it's just an amazing thing to do. So for him, and he'll be remembered for that for probably for a lot longer. In fact, I'm not sure what race it was, and I don't know who won it. So he's probably better remembered, and there's a better story there than the chap that won the race, isn't there? So even in failure, if your ligament gives out or your hamstring or whatever it was, there's a chance for greatness, isn't there?
Yeah. I can remember a marathon on the TV where a couple of guys actually stopped and picked someone up and carried them across the line, so they all finished together.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's kind of lovely. But when you get into I gotta win, elbowing people out the way, so you've got to get there, But when you're someone like Donald Trump, if you go bankrupt, is that a failure? Yeah. I guess that from his point of view, it might be, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, in America, I think it's kind of a bit of because there's more of a culture there of just going for it and whatever it takes. And I think bankruptcy is, I wouldn't maybe say a badge of honor quite as such, but it's part of the process of becoming a success, whatever, inverted commas, that you have had some whopping great big failures along the way. I think the system, I think the kind of tax system and the business system in America is set up to allow that in some ways, so that you can make these huge errors or have these massive failures as such, and then you can still pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and have another go.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, there's nobody who hasn't had a failure. We've all done it. We all do it. Life is about failures. But it's whether we see those as debilitating, whether we see those as part of our journey to success. Another story.
So yeah, we're coming on to themes of like resilience now, which is quite a big one within the self-development world, which we haven't talked about specifically that for a while. But like being able to dust yourself down or go again, or even a lot of people will avoid things through failure, through the fear of failure. So how do we start to build in resilience into people?
I think it starts off with children, like childhood. And I think as parents, we have a lot of responsibility to do that to kids, so they don't feel demeaned when they get something wrong. They feel enabled to try something again. I think that's really important. When people are older, you have to sometimes go back in the programming and very often identify for them, where did this feeling of failure or not good enough come from? Mm-hmm. And then unwind that. And allow them to be in their present, and to be real in their present, and not feel embarrassed in their present. So important. Yeah.
It's also about your kind of your peers and the people you hang around with that may or may not be accepting of, or like treat you too nicely, even when you do have those failures. So people will avoid doing certain things because they know that they might feel embarrassed about something going wrong down the line, so they might not even attempt it in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that people's anxiety about failure leads people to doing things like getting well oiled before they go out somewhere, so that their concerns and worries are suppressed by the alcohol, so people can then get up with their knickers on their head and dance on the table. And not feel embarrassed about it. Whereas if they didn't have the lubrication, then they would be. Yeah. So I think that whole kind of success and failure is a really kind of illusory concept. So it's the attitude for me is that it's a relative statement. Something is only cold if it's colder than what we're defining as hot. And something is only hot if we're defining it as warmer than something that we define as cold. It's a relative situation. Mm-hmm. So is success £10, £100, £1,000? £10,000, £100,000, £1 million. What's the success point? And if you don't achieve that, are you a failure? Because I see lots of people that work in that world where, and one of the saddest things to me is the amount of people that I suspect see their bodies as failures. So they've then got to tuck it and puff it and fill it and stretch it and lift it or whatever.
Out a little bit.
Yeah. And it's like, why can't we be happy with who we are? Why do we have to have lips and perfectly smooth faces, and look like we're deformed? It's odd.
None of which you've got. You could look. I mean, for those watching on YouTube, do we think Sean needs a bit of a haircut? Is it getting to that point?
I've got a COVID hair, haven't I? I need a COVID haircut.
One of the things in terms of like the 10,000 hour rule is mentioned quite a lot, isn't it? In terms of the amount of time you need to. I mean, I would question that. I think 10,000 hours is needed, or something in that area, if you want to become a master of something, like playing the violin, or I don't know, building ships or canoes or something like that. But I can make a mean pizza dough, and it didn't take me 10,000 hours. It took me 4 or 5 goes at it, and now I can do it no trouble. So it doesn't have to be 10,000 hours, does it?
No, but that's when you want to become the expert, isn't it? So it's reckoned that the Beatles did 10,000 hours of playing together before they became famous, doing the clubs and doing Germany and stuff like that. And they reckon that was what created their ability to write relevant songs. And
you don't always see that legwork, do you, that's gone into something beforehand, which again I guess leads into a fear of trying something, failure. Because I mean, we've talked about Edison and his light bulbs, but there's for every success that we see out there, it's probably involved an incredible amount of blood, sweat and tears along the way. Which I mean we can't speak to Edison now, but maybe there's some biographies we can look at. But looking back, maybe he would say that 10,000 hours and those thousands of variations were the most enjoyable part of the process, not necessarily when he finally cracked it and he was on front of newspapers or speaking to politicians all of a sudden about this amazing thing he'd invented. Who knows?
Just as we're talking, the news flash dropped down. Boris has now said that we shouldn't go on holiday to armed countries. Right now, there's a whole set of issues in that for me about success and failure, because the success of the countries that we're going to, if we can't go to them, does that create their failure? And is that a failure, or do they have to change what they're doing? Because I think lots of people are going to face this success failure dilemma. Does that mean if I've booked a holiday and I can't get my money back, am I a failure? I shouldn't have done that. Oh, bloody idiot. Or do I learn? What do I do? And it's around us all the time, all these concepts of, have I got it right? Have I got it wrong? And what about when you say something and afterwards you think, oh my God, why did I say that? I wish I could cut my tongue out, But it's like, if you learn from all these things, it's fine. And it's like, maybe what some of the businesses that have been stretched beyond belief in this COVID crisis, and they are in the position of failing, is what they have to learn is that maybe their business model was wrong, and they have to have more of a buffer to get them through the lean times. Maybe that's what they learn from this.
I guess it's fascinating stuff. What's your resource of the week, Sean? What are you gonna leave people?
Well, I just wanted to be practical, really. It's like, if you look at yourself, am I a success or am I a failure? Because I work with lots of people that say, oh, if only, and I wish I had and I hadn't, and all that kind of stuff. But if you sit down realistically now, get 2 bits of blank paper, and on one, write down 10 things that you feel that you've succeeded at in life. Yeah, actually go through your life and think about, okay, what have I succeeded at? And it could be that I make a real mean roast dinner on a Sunday. It doesn't, you know, whatever it is, you know, what are your successes? And then think about the things in your life that have gone wrong, that have actually allowed you to create a positive alternative that went right. So what failures have you turned into successes? Yeah, and maybe we need to start seeing ourselves as people that we have this wonderful creative consciousness that can solve problems if we allow it to. So we don't have to have problems, we have learning opportunities. We don't have failures, we only have successes, because we actually use those failures to create success. It's part of the process. Yeah. So it's a practical doing something, do it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Don't just endlessly read stuff. Sometimes, we just got to dive in and have a go at stuff, haven't we?
Yeah. But it's like, it'd be interesting to sit down with your partner and say, what do you think I'm successful at? Yeah. And see the way they see you. Yeah. You know, ask your friends, you know, what am I good at? Yeah.
Cool.
They might say, yeah, you're really good at moaning. I don't know, but it's yeah.
I'm going to link to there's a movie on the BBC iPlayer called Sully. Tom Hanks is the pilot who landed the plane on the River Hudson back in 2000 something. Cool movie. I mean, it has been, I'm sure, dramatized quite a bit. If you can dramatize, you know, the process of landing a plane full of people in a river.
But that's where they took off, and then they had to come straight back down again.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah.
Right. So it's amazing. I mean, he says in the movie he you know, safely delivered millions of people over his 40-year career, and he was defined by that one episode, which the movie kind of dramatizes it a bit, I'm sure, but the investigation into why he made the decision to land in the water rather than turning back to the airport is questioned, you know. So, and it, you know, he used all the experience he had to make that snap decision, which turned out right. But it's kind of it's interesting in terms of what we've just talked about, because a lot of people, well, certain in the movie at least, were kind of seeing him as a failure because he made the wrong decision at the time. But he's kind of proved that he used all his wisdom and experience to do the right thing. So it's really fascinating stuff. Yeah.
And I guess that kind of chimes with the idea that failure and success are in the eye of the beholder. Yeah. And he saved everyone's lives. That seemed like a success to me. Okay, he lost the plane. Okay, maybe. Yeah.
Hey, all right, cool. All done, I think. You happy?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm groovy.
All right, let's go out there and let's cause some failure. Let's cause some mayhem and mess everything up, eh?
Yeah, and end up as successes. Yeah,
we'll get there in the end, eh?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Sean, you have a good week.
Okay, and you take care.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.